Let's talk about dividing polynomials, specifically long division. So in order to do so, you would need to know the terminology. So the division symbol looks like this. And then after that, you want to know, well, what's under the division symbol? Well, that's referred to as the dividend. What's on the outside is a divisor. And then your answer to the division problem is called the quotient. And that's located on top of your division symbol. So in elementary, you learned these steps, but you probably forgot. So divide is your first step, multiply, subtract, and then bring down. So the way that you could probably remember it is think of your family in what order, who has to say so. Not all the time, but just for the sake of trying to remember this. D stands for dad, M, mom, S, sister, and then B, brother. So that can help you to remember which order that the steps go in when you're trying to divide. All right, so another thing you want to pay attention to is your divisor's leading coefficient, especially in this case, because again, we're referring to polynomials. So if I have x minus 3, my leading coefficient is a 1. But when I'm using long division, I can also take a divisor that has a leading coefficient that's greater than 1, which in this case, it just happens to be 2, but it can be anything that's bigger than 1. So again, you need to know terminology. Leading coefficient, coefficient is the number that's in front of your variable and your exponent with the highest, your exponent that has the highest degree, okay? So let's try working some of these problems out. And this is usually what it would look like. I've already begun the problem for you, but what you need to know is your divisor is what follows your division sign. So I want to take this dividend, which is your polynomial, and I want to place it under the division sign. So this polynomial, or my dividend, divided by this divisor, x plus 5. I have to make sure it's in standard form. So my dividend has to be in standard form as well as my divisor, which is already in standard form. So let's check. X to the fourth, x to the third, x squared. Well, I see I have a constant and then I have my x to the first. So I want to make sure that I swap those. I want to write it in standard form and put that x to the first next to the x squared. So this is what it would look like. X to the fourth plus 11x cubed plus 32x squared plus 4x minus 27. Now the steps will go as follows. You want to divide. So let's just write this to the side. D, M, dad, mom, sister, brother. All right, so I want to take I want to divide the first term only. So again, well, let's just kind of backtrack. Let's say I had in elementary 36 and I divided it by 6. The way this looks as a fraction is the number that's underneath under the division sign. It goes on top divided by what your divisor is, 6. So that's what it looks like in fraction form. 36 divided by 6 would equal 6. So we're going to do the same concept, but this time we're doing it with polynomials. And I've been having problems all day with my eraser, so excuse that. All right, so over to the side, I'm going to take my first term, x to the fourth, and divide it by my first term of my divisor, which is simply x. Recall that when you have exponents that you're dividing, you want to subtract them. So 4 minus, there's understood to be a 1 there, so that's going to leave me x to the third power. That answer is my quotient. It's the start of my quotient. For me, everybody doesn't do it this way. I like to line up my exponents. So I'm looking for x cubed under my division sign, and it's right here. So that's where I'm going to place this. And also notice that I started with x to the fourth, so my answer is going to begin 1 degree down. So if it's 4, my answer is going to start with 3. So now what I want to do is I'm going to always take the divisor, the entire divisor, and I am going to multiply what I just came up with by distributing. Then I'm going to subtract. That's my next step. So when I subtract, I actually have a set of parentheses here, which means that everything in here, the signs will change. So let's just go ahead, back to our step of multiplying. X cubed times x is x to the fourth. X times 5 is positive 5x. Because I have a subtraction sign, again, everything will change. So this is going to just go ahead and go to a subtraction sign. That's already, in my mind, is a subtraction sign there. So how I know I'm doing it correctly is my very first, when I multiply, my first term will match whatever's above it. It will always be the exact same. The only difference is once I subtract it, it's going to change signs, which is what I want because I want it to go away, which is what happened. So 11 minus 5, now I just continue simplifying and I have 6. I'm sorry, I forgot to put my cube there. So, and I again know I'm doing it correctly if my exponents are lined up. So 11 minus 5 is 6x cubed. And then I go to my next step is B, bringing it down, including the sign, plus 32x squared. And now I start that process again. First term, which is going to be 6x cubed divided by that same first term of my divisor. 6 divided by 1 is 6. X cubed divided by x is x squared. And you will notice it's counting down 3, 2. And again, I'm going to multiply by this divisor. I'm just going to keep bringing it down. This becomes 6x squared times x, which is going to be exactly the same as what's above it. 6x squared times 5 is a positive 30x squared. But my next step tells me to subtract, which means I am going to have to change every sign. So that goes with this. This one becomes a subtraction sign. I know that I'm doing it correctly because the very first terms look exactly the same. The only difference is that sign now changes this sign. So it goes away and I continue the process. 32x squared minus 30x squared is going to be 2x squared. Bring down 4x. First term divided by x. See, everything is still being divided by the first term of my divisor. 2x, I bring down this. And again, I'm saving it. Well, I don't have to save it, but what I have on the outside, that's going to go on the top. But I'll show you in a minute if I forget to write it on top, what I can do. All right. And then I'm going to multiply, which is going to give me 2x squared plus 10x. Again, exact same. The only difference now is because I have a subtraction sign and a set of parentheses, this is going to change. And that goes away. I am left with, this is 4 minus 10, which is, I'm sorry, yeah, 4 minus 10, which is negative 6x. Bring down my negative 27. And then over here, I'm going to take my first term, negative 6x divided by x. Negative 6 divided by x is going to, I'm sorry, negative 6 divided by 1 is negative 6. X divided by itself goes away. And again, lastly, I multiply everything by x plus 5. And when I do that, I end up with negative 6 times x, which is the exact same thing as what's above, negative 6 times 5, which is negative 30. However, this is really in parentheses, and I am distributing this negative sign, which will change just to a positive, and this one also to a positive. I am left with a 3 because negative 27 plus 30 results in 3. Oops. All right, there we go. This is my remainder. So I do not have to take this over to the side and do the math like I was doing a few minutes ago. Once I get to my constant is the very last thing that I'm going to distribute to the divisor. So you're like, well, you never put anything at the top. Okay, so what I want you to notice is I did actually do my work over to the side. So everything that's on the outside is my answer, excluding my remainder. So I have to remember that part. So now if I wanted to go back and put my quotient, which I should, do not leave it in vertical order like this, go back and put my answer. So I know x cubed, I already put that, plus 6x squared. There's a plus here, plus 2x, minus this time, so minus 6. And notice how everything has aligned up. What I'm left with, I have to put in fraction form, because if I try to put plus 3 here, I'm going to try to combine that negative 6 and positive 3, and that will be incorrect. So if I ever have a remainder, I want to leave it in fraction form, which is going to be plus 3, and then whatever your actual divisor is, that's what's going to go under your remainder, that whole divisor. Okay? So my final answer, oops, let's put it in over here. My pen is acting up today. My final answer is in this form. That's my quotient. Notice it's in standard form, x cubed plus 6x squared plus 2x minus 6. And again, do not try to put plus 3 as a big number, because you're going to try to combine that negative 6 and 3 and it will be incorrect. Your remainder will be shown as a fraction, 3 over your divisor. Your divisor is part of your remainder. All right, let's try another one. This time my leading coefficient is greater than 1. So this is my leading coefficient. And what I want to do is make sure that my answer is in standard form. Not my answer, my dividend. So I'm going to take the 24v cubed, and then I'm going to write the next exponent, which is 12v squared. And I notice I'm missing the v. So if I'm missing something, the variable, I want to just put in a 0 placeholder. So in this case, just positive 0v. And then I can continue, plus 7. And now I'm going to do the steps that I was doing a few minutes ago, which is taking my very first, I'm going to do divide, multiply, subtraction, and then, where did I get v from? Oh my goodness. I meant b. All right. So what I'm going to do is take that first term, 24v cubed, and I'm going to divide it by the first term of my divisor, 8v, which is 24 divided by 8, 3v cubed divided by v squared. So this goes on top, and with me, I align it with the exponent. So 3v squared. You don't have to do it that way. Some people start here. That's fine. It's up to you. What I can't forget is my next step. I know I'm going to be subtracting, but what am I subtracting? I'm taking my divisor and I am multiplying it times that answer. So 3 times 8 is 24. V squared times v is v cubed. I know I'm on the right track because it's exactly the same as the term above it. 3 times 4 is 12. And then v squared. Again, because I am subtracting, I know that my signs will change. So this becomes a negative, which is what I want because it's going to go away. And this one also becomes a negative. And in this case, it happens to go away as well. So 0v squared. Well, when I bring down the next term, I have another 0. Now, technically, you could just go ahead and bring your 7 down, but I just, for the sake of showing you step by step, the divide, multiply, subtract, bring down, I don't want to confuse you. So let's go back to that first term, which is 0, v squared, divided by that same first term, which is your divisor, 8v. And anything divided by 0 is simply 0. So I have 0v, so that means I'm not going to have any v's. So that's what's going there. And of course, if I were to distribute it, 0 times any number is just going to result in 0. So I will just end up with the same information. Let's go ahead and write that down. 0v squared plus 0v. And again, just for the sake of consistency, if I were to subtract this, this is going to change this sign as well as this one. And I'm still left with zeros. So I'm going to bring down a 0 and plus 7. My first term is still 0. So if I were doing the process again, 0v divided by 8v. The v's go away. 0 divided by 8 is 0. So this number is what's going to go here, because again, this is really my answer. We're just doesn't have the remainder with it. And so let's keep going over on this side. If I were to distribute this out, the 8v plus 4, that's going to turn into zeros again. So I end up with 0v, that was a v there, plus 0, and that negative, and then that's negative, which we really don't have to see. So 7 minus 0 is still 7. That's my remainder. And remember, I told you when you have a remainder, you still have to put that with your answer. So let me try to make some space over here. And once you put it with your answer, it's going to be in fraction form plus, okay, come on, pen, plus 7 over, I truly apologize. My pen is just doing what it wants to do. All right, you guessed it, 8v plus 4. Where'd you get that from? That is your divisor. Your entire divisor is going to go in your answer when you have a remainder. So my final answer, well, it depends on your teacher. I personally wouldn't want this. So let me take that out. I'm going to rewrite it without the zeros. So what I would ask you to do, and then this is your final answer, is to just use the 3v squared. Don't worry about the zeros, plus 7 over 8v plus 4. This is actually your quotient. That's your final answer. All right. I hope that helped you guys. And again, I apologize for my pen. It's just doing whatever it wanted to do. Have an awesome day.